Today is Veterans Day. It's a day here in my home country, the United States, where we honor all those who have served. This video attempts to do exactly that. Honor and remember three actors from an era gone by. Each one of them were huge stars on classic television shows that to this day can be found playing on television stations throughout the U.S. Despite their fame, I have to believe that each one of these gentlemen would point to their time in the service with perhaps even more pride than the accolades they garnered during their years in Hollywood. So anyway, let's get started with the guy smack dab in the middle of this image, Dan Blocker. When I was a kid, I used to watch Bonanza all the time. In fact, I still do from time to time. And regardless of the episode, Hoss was always my favorite. How could he not be? He was big and strong and friendly, exactly the kind of guy that any kid would want to have around. He was that friend who would have your back if you needed it. Trustworthy, loyal, courteous, kind. Well, you get it. During high school, as you might expect, a guy of Dan's size was a standout athlete. While Blocker was known for his easygoing personality, he was also very determined. Nothing would stand in his way of achieving his goals, except of course getting drafted by the U.S. Army to serve during the Korean War. After doing his basic training at Fort Polk, Louisiana, Dan was shipped out to Korea in December of 1951 and stayed there until August of 1952. During that time, Dan served his country very nobly. In addition to receiving the Purple Heart, Blocker also received the National Defense Service Medal, the Korean Service Medal, and 2 Bronze Campaign Stars. But like I said, Dan Blocker wasn't the only one. Moving on to Chuck Connors, this actor is best known as Lucas McCain from the classic TV western The Rifleman, which ran on the ABC television network for 5 seasons during the late 50s and early 60s. In that show, he starred with former Mouseketeer Johnny Crawford as a widower trying to raise his son in the Wild West. But before that show, like Dan Blocker, Chuck Connors was also an amazing athlete. He was attending Seton Hall on a sports scholarship when Major League Baseball scouts started taking notice. Chuck was truly gifted, one of those guys who, if he wanted to, could play multiple major league sports. Being a lifelong Brooklyn Dodgers fan, Connors dropped out of college and played a handful of minor league games with a Dodgers farm team. However, before he could get his athletic career really going, Chuck felt that his efforts were needed elsewhere, so he joined the United States Army following America's entrance into World War II. During most of the war, he served as a tank warfare instructor at Fort Campbell, located on the Kentucky-Tennessee border. Lastly, let's talk for just a minute about this guy. Best known as Sarge from the Gomer Pyle Show, Frank Sutton took a great deal of pride in his time in the service. Although he had been bitten by the acting bug at an early age, he also had a great love for his country, and after high school, he tried to enlist in both the Navy and the Marine Corps, but was turned down for a variety of health reasons. Ever persistent, Sutton successfully enlisted in the U.S. Army and served in the South Pacific during World War II and participated in 14 different assault landings. Ironically, when Sutton left the military in 1946, he had attained the rank of, yep, you guessed it, Sergeant. During his service, Sutton was awarded both the Bronze Star and the Purple Heart. During a time in the 60s when there was a lot of unrest, when the military was being opposed both verbally and physically, Sutton made the somewhat risky decision to put on a one-man comedy show for soldiers serving during the Vietnam conflict. Yep, Frank used his time off between the 1966 and 1967 seasons of Gomer Pyle to give back and boost the morale of those who were serving their country. So there you go. 3 of Hollywood's greatest from an era gone by. Turns out they were not only wonderful actors, but great human beings as well. I'm thankful to each one of these guys for their service to my country. And I am equally grateful to every soldier who has ever served during wartime or peace, because it is their sacrifice that has allowed me to enjoy the freedoms that I have every day. If you are serving or have served, simply put, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Alright, that's it. Please share your memories in the comment section, and while you're at it, I'd love a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and I'd be honored if you would consider subscribing to my channel. I talk about music, movies, and television, mostly from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the good stuff. But most importantly, and as always, thank you so much for watching.